Just like the wide-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Just like the wide-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, baby, ooh, say ooh. And the days go by like a strand in the wind, in the web that is my own. I begin again. Said to my friend, baby, nothing else mattered. He was no more than a baby then. Well, he seemed broken hearted, something within him. But the moment that I first laid eyes on you, I'm all alone on the edge of 17. Just like the wide-winged dove.
It was on this day in 1981 that Stevie Nicks released her first solo album. That album, called Belladonna, spawned 4 top 40 hits for Stevie Nicks, former member of Fleetwood Mac, of course. Those 4 top 40 U.S. hits were Stop Dragging My Heart Around, a duet with Tom Petty; Leather and Lace, duet with Don Henley; After the Glitter Fades, and that song you heard right there, Edge of 17. Stevie Nicks starts our show today for this Wednesday, the 6th of August. It was the 6th of August, 1981, when Stevie's Belladonna album, her first solo effort, was released. And since we're talking about Stevie Nicks, I might as well let this cat out of the bag. And I feel a little bit guilty about this, and I'm sorry for that. It's not the way you see, I'm not the best at planning. If I didn't have my beloved in my life, I would not get anything accomplished ever. And so in this particular case, unintentionally, I seem to have lumped together a bunch of holiday time. And all of that holiday time lumped together means that this is my last workday this week. I know, I just got back from a long weekend yesterday, and we were to leave tomorrow to go see Stevie Nicks in concert with Billy Joel in New York. And of course, Billy Joel, as you know, fell ill, canceled the shows. We obviously have no show to go to now, and still had the holiday time booked, so still taking the break from work, but not going to see Billy Joel. And Stevie Nicks, what a concert that would have been. Anyway, all of this, the roundabout way to say, to telling you that I'm going to be gone as of tomorrow for a little bit again, even though I just got back from being away for an extended long weekend. It wasn't intentional. It just was, all these things seemed like a good idea at the time. And so here we are. I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to miss you when I'm gone, but it's summer and we take holidays and you take your holidays and our schedules are all over the place and we're not that far away. We were talking yesterday on the show how close the hockey season is. Preseason for the Kitchener Rangers starts later this month. We're just over 40 days away from the start of the regular season. We will be in regular form with regular hours in no time at all. So we're going to enjoy what lies ahead for the remainder of this summer, now that we're into the last month of summer vacation. And you will be well taken care of. Believe you me. Colin Robertson's going to be in here tomorrow and Friday. Brock Greenhalgh will be here next week with you. Lots of fun. Just remember to be nice to the supply teachers. I'll get a full report when I return on the 18th. So let's make this day count, okay, and have lots of fun with it. Speaking of counting, did you hear the one where we counted up 44 applicants for a vacant council seat on regional council? It's a seat representing Kitchener. Only 26 of the 44 applicants are actually from the city of Kitchener, but details, right? And this is going to be an appointment by council because they don't want you to vote on it. They just want to pick who should join their nice little club. I hope that next week's meeting where all 44 of these applicants make a presentation to council. I hope it goes for 44 hours and no coffee allowed, because this is the sixth times in just this term of council since 2022. So in 3 years, not even quite 3 years yet, 6 times, one of your local elected councils or bodies, because I'm counting the school boards in this, have appointed a new member. They did not let you vote in a by-election. They appointed a new member 6 times. It's embarrassing. I hope your meeting goes for 44 hours. I hope your meeting next week lasts until I get back the week after. Oy!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I'll give you half. How about 5? Your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. Number 1, Ontario doctors could be getting their pay structure revamped for the first time in almost 2 decades. The Ontario government reportedly close to a deal with the Ontario Medical Association that would update the compensation model for doctors working within a family health organization. The new deal will impact about 6,500 family physicians in Ontario. Number 2, police say a dog suffered heat stroke and had to be euthanized after it was left with another dog inside a hot vehicle in Oshawa this past weekend. The owner of the dogs has been arrested and is facing charges. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Air Canada flight attendants have voted overwhelmingly to give their union a strike mandate. The Canadian Union of Public Employees says members voted 99.7% in favor. Now, this result does not guarantee a strike by the airline's 10,000 flight attendants, but says union members support the measure if the bargaining team decides to call for a work stoppage. Number 4, a union representing forestry workers in British Columbia is applauding Prime Minister Mark Carney's promise of more than $1 billion in supports for the softwood lumber industry. Public and Private Workers of Canada National President Jeff Daw says the money sends a message to the White House that Canada will not be bullied. The money for loan guarantees and long-term supports comes as the U.S. plans to hike anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. The Guelph Public Library's Comic Con event returns to the main library this Saturday between 10 and 2. The all-ages event gives you the chance to meet comic book writers and illustrators, play games, shop local vendors, and even snap a photo with a costumed hero. Guelph's main library is at 100 Norfolk Street. So Comic-Con at the main library in Guelph, 10 till 2 this Saturday. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. We'll take a break. Your morning wake-up call is coming right up. And I want to know, will you play the what-if game for me, with me today? I'm thinking about a what-if scenario, as in what if our population here in the region of Waterloo does not reach 1 million people in the next 25 years. What then? We'll play the game coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Signs, everywhere a sign telling us that the complexion of our community is changing just a wee bit. That boom in population is beginning to slow down to a trickle, and it's having an impact. I mean, take Conestoga College, for example. Josh Piercy, our reporter, was on that story this morning during All News Mornings, talking about the challenges that Conestoga College continues to face. And Conestoga College is not alone in this. Other post-secondary institutions in our community, the universities as well, are facing the impacts of declining enrollment in international students who pay more in tuition. We know this story. It's been well documented. And I think there might be a cautionary tale within the post-secondary sector for communities on the whole. When we look at the numbers, and this is what's got me thinking this morning as I ask you to play along with me here on the what if game, looking just at the numbers, in the 3 years from 2021 to 2024, we added more than 96,000 new residents to this community. A population increase, of more than 13%. In just 3 years, we grew by more than 13%, taking our population overall in this region to about 707,000 people as of last summer. That 96,000 plus explosion, frankly, in population over just a 3-year period was more residents than we had added in the previous 10 years. So you count the 10 years from 2011 to 2021, and we don't even add 96,000 people. But from 2021 to 2024, we added 96,000 people. At least one economist at the University of Waterloo thinks our population in this region will fall this year. And don't forget, that's what has happened, however slightly, in the province, at least in the first quarter of 2025, a slight decline in the overall population here in Ontario. When you look at the population explosion that we had from 2021 to 2024, it can be almost entirely attributed to international students and temporary foreign workers. And now that the immigration model is being reimagined here in Canada, and those taps get slowly turned off or turned off completely while they figure out a new way for those streams to operate, I don't think it's all that likely that we're going to be seeing 96,000 people moving here every 3 years. So again, I'm looking strictly at the numbers here. It's a cold analysis, I'll grant you, but take the 707,000 people that we have in this region roughly right now. And we hear all the time that we have to be 1 million ready in the region of Waterloo because our population, it is estimated, will reach 1 million people by 2051. So another 25 years to go up 300,000 people. But if we're not going to have an explosion, the likes of which we had the past 3 years, and we take that previous decade where we didn't even add 96,000 people as an example, well, that would give us maybe at most 250,000 more people by 2050, 2051, which is less than 1 million overall. And that's if we grow at that pace. Right now, we seem to be moving, however slightly, in reverse. I recall, and I wish I could confirm this for you, so I'm only going by memory, and I admit I could be wrong, but when we were planning light rail phase 1, all of the forecasts then, if I remember correctly, and I feel pretty confident about this, but we were talking about a population in this region of 750,000 by 2020, 2021. Clearly, we didn't reach that number. Again, I haven't been able to find any documentation. I'm just going from memory. But I feel pretty confident that was our projection then. Now we're talking about getting to 1 million in the next quarter century or so. And the numbers, the cold, hard numbers suggest we may not reach that. And what are the implications? Again, I know we're playing the what if game, but what if we don't get to 1 million people? We're doing all sorts of planning for a community of 1 million, right? Phase 2 of light rail transit, the Wilmot Land Assembly, high rises going up every ding-dang place you can put one, because we have to be 1 million ready. Investments are made. Money is spent. Planning is done based on the population of 1 million people. But if we don't get there, then what? And again, I'll bring it back to the post-secondary sector, which I think provides an example, because what's happening? Expansion plans are being put on pause. Staff is being laid off. Programs are being cut. If we look at that in the bigger picture as a community, what will we be cutting back on? Will we be able to recoup money already invested if we don't make it to 1 million people? Just something that crossed my mind after coming across a few numbers this morning. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of our 9:30 update in the 570 News Center. Phone lines are always open to you. This is the most interactive radio program anywhere in Waterloo Region. Love to hear from you. So let's go to the phones. Phil, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I'm out here in God's country on my way home from Heidelberg, heading back to Stratford. You're concerned about the population numbers? I think you seem to forget that we had a good old-fashioned winter with a lot of snow days. And my prediction is there's going to be a lot of babies born November, December.
Oh, Phil, leave it to you. Maybe, and that's fine. I recall a conversation I had years ago with a really good friend who's in local politics. And I was considering running for office. And she said at the time, you have to think of two questions. What happens if you win? What happens if you lose? And I hadn't thought of the what happens if you win part. It was a pretty scary thought. I'll be in charge of some things, or I'll be facing big decisions, et cetera, et cetera. I bring this forward just looking at the numbers for consideration. We are talking about being 1 million ready, which I think is important. I hope we're also at least considering the other side of that coin. What if we don't? Paul, good morning.
You know, it's really, really important that we achieve these numbers, because think about this. If I have a business and I sell widgets and I've sold a widget to every single person, where's my new market coming in?
I get it.
We have to increase the population in order to ensure that business continues to grow and they produce more useless stuff.
Well, it's not all useless. Be fair.
Not all of it's useless, but this is big business relies on an ever-increasing population in order to improve their markets, to expand things, so that they've got more and more people to sell useless stuff to.
All right. I got to get to news, Paul. I'll leave you right there. But this is another one of the implications, right? If the numbers don't get to 1 million, what is the impact on the economy? That anticipated a rapidly growing market. These are just considerations that I hope smarter people than I are considering. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
We want full-fledged bail reform, and I'd love to see mandatory sentencing. So when someone breaks into your home, puts a gun to your head, terrorizes your neighborhood, doesn't get out on bail after being out on bail for 5 times. That's what we need. When you break a law, one country, one law, you're going to jail, and there'll be a deterrent for all the other criminals who want to terrorize their neighborhoods and keep them behind bars. So when they steal a car or put a gun to someone's head, well, you're going to jail for a long time if you use a weapon.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
And that, of course, is the voice of Ontario Premier Doug Ford following a meeting of Canada's premiers a little more than a week ago, from which emerged several issues, one of them being bail reform. And Premier Ford, as he so often does, puts it pretty plainly in that clip. If you commit an offense, especially a violent offense or with the use of a firearm, you do not pass go, you do not collect 200, you go to jail, and you stay there for a long time. That, in the eyes of Premier Ford, would be sufficient deterrent to crack down not only on violent crimes or gun crimes, but also this concern that we seem to have. And I think it's a well-placed concern based on the stories that we're hearing. Perhaps we're just finding enough of them to report on, but I think we can all think of the last time, which was probably pretty recently, that we heard a story of somebody who was out on bail, then committing another offense. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association isn't exactly thrilled with the prospect of reforming bail in Canada. And the Canadian Civil Liberties Association has the liberty of joining us on the show to talk about their concerns. Unfortunately, we're having a difficult time tracking down or connecting to the guest who had agreed to join us. Maybe they changed their minds. Maybe they're not at liberty to talk anymore. But let's just break down what it is that we're talking about here, because you'll remember during the federal election campaign earlier just this year, Mark Carney, then Liberal leader, now Prime Minister, did promise to, quote, move aggressively to implement stricter bail laws. Well, here we are 100 days into Mark Carney's mandate, and this conversation is still kind of floating out there in the ether. The premiers are pushing for it, but nothing has yet happened. The pledge on the part of the federal Liberals was to introduce a reverse onus for more offenses. This reverse onus already exists on some cases. This came through amendments to the criminal code by the Liberal government in 2023. What reverse onus means, essentially, is that it moves the burden of proof from the prosecution to the accused. And so we just saw this play out, albeit with a different kind of crime or alleged crime, in a London courtroom with the Hockey Canada trial, right? It is all on the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody is guilty of an offense. With reverse onus, it is now on the person accused to clear their own names, justify why it is they should be granted bail. So that's what we're looking to do, or that's what the federal government's promise was, to add more of these offenses or add the reverse onus to more of these offenses. And as you know, premiers across this country, including Ontario Premier Doug Ford, is very much supportive of any effort to get tougher on bail. And we heard this through the election campaign as well from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, jail, not bail. Over and over and over again, he drove that message home. So where do the concerns come in? Well, this is where it gets interesting. One, of course, is the fact that we have so many people sitting in provincial prisons right now waiting for their trial. If we go back to 1982, so granted, we're going back 40 years in time here, but 20% of the province's prison population was waiting for their trial. As of now, we're sitting at about 70% of people who are currently housed in provincial jails. They're just waiting for their trial. Remember, innocent until proven guilty. I know with the reverse onus I just explained to you, it's the burden of proof is now on the allegedly innocent person to explain why, to justify their case for bail, so they're kept in there longer. But just imagine, if you are, and this is where the Canadian civil liberties argument comes into play here, if you are indeed innocent of the crime for which you are accused, and you are denied bail, it can take up to 2.5 years before your case even gets to trial. So imagine being behind bars for 2.5 years in prisons that we are told are overcrowded just to get your trial, during which it may be determined, wow, you were eligible for bail, or you didn't commit the offense for which you have been accused. That's an awfully long time to spend behind bars. And there we have the Canadian Civil Liberties Association making the argument that you can't keep people waiting that long for a fair trial just because you have this jail not bail mentality across the country right now. That kind of sets the context for where we're at. And I think if we give it a moment's extra thought, we've identified a real pinch point here, right? Simply, we cannot have a system whereby people are waiting up to 30 months, 2.5 years, to get their day in court. Do we need more judges? Do we need more courthouses? I don't know the answer to that necessarily, but I think this is a pinch point within the overall system. We all get frustrated. I'm right there with you when we hear about crimes being committed, especially violent crimes, especially firearms offenses, by people who are already out on bail. If they were not released on bail, clearly they could not have committed that next offense. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association says, hang on a second here. What if? And just imagine if you're the innocent person that ends up 30 months, 2 years or more, waiting for your trial. That kind of sets the stage for the Canadian Civil Liberties Association argument. What do you think? I get the feeling, just from what I hear lately, that we are fully on board with the jail not bail idea. Does the argument from the Canadian Civil Liberties Association give you any pause? What would you like to see the system look like? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I look forward to hearing from you. We'll take your calls after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The consequence of tougher bail rules is that those rules erode what the Canadian Civil Liberties Association says is a, quote, core safeguard of liberty for the innocent. In an environment where we have record levels of bail being denied and we have further erosions, whether through reverse onus provisions or otherwise, we really dilute the strength of that protection. Again, the safeguard of liberty for the innocent. So says the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, as there are increasing calls for bail reform here in Canada. Does that argument from the Canadian Civil Liberties Association give you any pause? Or have you heard enough of the stories, which I think we all probably have, about people on bail being arrested and charged with another crime? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, too.
Good.
Listening to the story, I'm just wondering, I'd like to know what the percentage of people that are sitting in trial sitting in jail awaiting their trial have been arrested only that one time versus the numbers of people who are being rearrested 2, 3, 4 times and getting back out on bail, because I think that would inform on what should happen as far as bail reform. Like, there should be maybe like a one strike and you're out kind of thing. Like, if you've been rearrested 2 or 3 times for a violent crime, you shouldn't get bail. And at that point, I mean, if you're an adult, where your civil liberties lie at that point, I think are way down my priority as far as, you've knowingly committed a violent crime. I don't necessarily have a lot of sympathy for you as far as whether you are going to sit in jail. I'm sorry. That's just me.
No, and you know what, Lisa? I think you make an excellent point around those numbers, because you know what we say about numbers, right? Numbers never lie, but liars always figure, or something like that. Like, you can spin numbers in any which way you want, and I think that would be a good deeper dive into that 70% we're talking about awaiting trial. How many are re-offenders?
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
Always
anyway,
appreciate.
Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks, Lisa. You too. Good to hear from you. I think it's a fair point when Lisa talks about the adult in the room being the offender or the alleged offender having allegedly committed a violent offense. She cares less for their civil liberties at that point. And I will bring it back to the person upon whom the offense was perpetrated. What if you were the person that was carjacked at gunpoint, knife point, crowbar point? I don't know what the point might be, but what about the civil liberties that you had denied yourself as you were just making your way to work one day in the community that you previously had felt was safe? Something like that. I think sometimes the person who is the victim of the crime, their rights their experiences get overlooked in all of this. And I think adulthood here, too, is a good point to bring to bear on this. I think that we all learn at various times through this life what is right, what is wrong, and just to, again, echo Lisa's argument on this, if it is a multiple-time offender, how many times do we keep going back to, well, it was this root cause or that root cause or this childhood trauma that we have not yet remedied, and they continue to offend as adults? At some point, it's got to be, hey, there's some accountability here on the part of you, the person, to stop committing the violent offense for which you are arrested again and again and again. It's not, make no mistake, that is not the rule. It's not as though we have hordes and hordes of people wandering the streets who are out on bail having committed multiple offenses. That's not the case. But the stories are being told often enough that it's got our dander up a little bit. Canadian Civil Liberties Association says we have to tread carefully down this path at risk of denying people the safeguard of liberty if they're innocent. But after multiple times, that number of 70% awaiting trial in a prison, how many of them are in that prison for the third, fourth, or even fifth time? Another, I think, statistic that is worth considering in this conversation. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. My buddy Josh Brown over at the Waterloo Region Record. I call him my buddy. I hope he doesn't mind that, because Josh, as you probably know, covers the Kitchener Rangers for our local newspaper. So Josh and I spend a whole lot of time together during the hockey season. We almost become like family. We see more of one another, I think, than we see of our own families during the season. Anyway, he's got to keep busy in the off season, right? Just like me. And Josh has a story on the front page of this morning's Waterloo Region Record that really caught my attention, because it's something that we've talked about before on this show, albeit a long time ago, but it fits in nicely with this idea. And I'm hoping it's not just an idea from our municipal governments to change procurement so that local gets a higher priority, right? We talked about this with the whole elbows up mentality. Let's insulate ourselves from economic trade winds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been beating the horse since that moment that, and I was doing it beforehand. Like, why don't we have Olympia ice resurfacing machines made right in Elmira in every ding-dang arena in this community? I have not the foggiest. I make it make sense to me. We've been making these things here for decades, and yet we use the other brand on our ice surfaces. Makes no sense. And I think that would be an easy win for our municipalities as they get their elbows up and support local. Josh's story in today's paper is about Heat Design Equipment, a company run by Bob Kieswetter and his son, Matt. Now, I'm not going to claim to have the full understanding of all of this, but the gist of it is, and I met both Bob and Matt during a Farwell for hire years ago, where they had me out on one of their machines, which basically extends the life of a road by preventing potholes. Again, I'm not even going to try to explain the technology. Matt and Bob were great at doing that at the time, and they can. But this is a company based right here in Kitchener that offers preventive road maintenance and extends the life of the asphalt by essentially preventing potholes. That's their technology, the way that it's worked. It's a very unique system, et cetera, et cetera. It's being used in all parts of the world, including right on Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House. And do you think the story is about how Toronto has purchased one of their vehicles to do some preventive maintenance? What? Hello, Kitchener and Waterloo and Cambridge and the township. Have you been on your own corduroy roads lately? Bumpity bump, 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 like when I go down Ira Needles Boulevard. Come on with your coming on. Pothole problems around here are ridiculous. why is Heat Design Equipment's technology going to other municipalities and not being used in a widespread manner right here in our own backyard? I think there's another win for you. Supporting local, our own municipalities using the technology that's been pioneered right here in the region. Let's go. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Wednesday morning, just after the 10 a.m. news, it must be time to mind Ottawa's business with our friends at the Blacklocks Reporter. It is the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. You can get a subscription for yourself, something I highly recommend. I mean, the reading might chafe your chaps a wee bit, but it is well worth the investment at blacklocks.ca. That's where you can get your subscription. Tom Korski is the managing editor of the Blacklocks Reporter, joins us for this weekly chat. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
We like to talk about, or we use the phrase often, the inmates are running the asylum. But in this particular case, I'm trying to figure out who's managing the inmates within Canada's federal prison system, or how many people, perhaps, is the more appropriate question.
This is interesting. People have a general impression, I don't know, maybe from the movies, that the prisons are overcrowded and there is a shortage of staff. Not in Canada. In fact, by the Correctional Services estimates, we have almost 2,000 empty prison cells. These are in federal prisons, penitentiaries. And the Correctional Service estimates they now have more than 20,000 employees, but there's fewer than 15,000 inmates in custody. There are more employees than inmates. And the correctional investigator, who is, this is not a taxpayer's ombudsman, the correctional investigator has said there are some institutions in this country where the guards literally outnumber the people they are watching. We have one of the most, says the investigator, one of the most expensive prison systems on planet Earth. It's very costly. Almost $4 billion a year, Mike.
$4 billion a year to pay people to mind 2,000 empty cells is really what it boils down to.
And it's funny, when they tried to economize, God bless their hearts. And they said, we have a problem, for instance, with illegal immigrants who are under deportation orders. Maybe we could put some of them in these empty cells. And what it wound up costing was more. It didn't lower the cost. It cost more, $16 million a year, according to the Canada Border Services Agency, because they had to pay for what they called, I quote them accurately, compassionate detention conditions, like daily access to doctors, nurses, and psychologists. So you have a very expensive prison system that, I guess it's a rhetorical question, why wouldn't they trim the staff if the prison population is going down? It's a riddle wrapped in an enigma. No one knows.
It's an excellent question, though, Tom. It's an excellent question. Okay, so the Treasury Board is serious, and it means it, because if you work for the Federal Civil Service, you best watch what you post on social media.
Anyone in private sector would say this is not a high bar. But apparently it is a sort of a mission and a wonderful challenge, in particular for federal managers. What did the Treasury Board say? It's a brand new policy, the toughest worded policy yet on social media use. And they have told especially managers, get off Twitter if you are using profane, vulgar, or partisan remarks. You work for all the people all the time. And indeed, we see for the first time a federal manager who got busted, and he had to revoke his tweets. He's a lawyer in the Department of Finance right here in Ottawa. His name is Timothy Heyer, and he is a real character, Mike. He was tweeting 9 to 10 times a day in the workday. Why don't I read some of Mr. Heyer's? Now, I'm going to edit this for reasons that will be obvious. What did Mr. Heyer say? Here's one. The nice thing about being in government is being able to introduce laws that allow you to F up without people being able to sue you for it. What else did Mr. Heyer have to say? He said, I would clearly not last as a reporter. Most likely I would be fired immediately after yelling out, what the F you just say, in the middle of the press conference. You're getting the gist, and you're saying, wait a minute, is this an angry 14-year-old over at the high school? No. This is legal counsel in the Department of Finance of a G7 country. Mike, they had to send out a memo to say stop it. It's unbelievable.
I'm just trying to think, Tom, if I even dropped one F-bomb in a social media post, what my parent company would have to say about me.
You know, what's interesting is that's exactly right. Find an XYZ trucking company, let alone a major corporation, let alone the smallest of small business, that has to go in and tell the guys on the shop floor, now, Tim, don't you be tweeting any F-bombs today about when has that ever happened in the world? Exactly.
Okay, let's talk Canada Post, Tom, because, because we must. 18 months, the latest offer rejected. Are we going to find a settlement here with Canada Post employees?
Well, the Labour Minister has said that she's counting on them, but this is the same Labour Minister who has in the past, and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers remembers this, has ordered the union back to work through legislation under threat of $100,000 a day fines. Terrible business labor relations at the post office. It has been that way for generations. Everyone knows it. Everyone remembers when a former CUPW president was jailed for criminal contempt. It's one of the worst labor management relations of any Crown corporation I know. And Cabinet, Mike, has done nothing. They have known the financial problems at Canada Post for years, and they have taken no steps to try to mitigate those losses for taxpayers or tell the two sides, look, we got to get together. Who has some nice ideas? This is a story of failure.
It most certainly is. And before I let you go, I wanted to ask about those Chinese-made ships that the British Columbia Ferry Service is buying. It's more than $1 billion in federal funds here, Tom. What is happening out in British Columbia?
This is interesting. Yeah. This is really interesting. The Cabinet does not have a majority in Parliament, which means that they are in trouble in committees. This is not inside baseball. This is where the flaming arrows comes from. And here we see in Commons Transport Committee, Conservative and Bloc members got together. They passed a motion to compel disclosure of every confidential document involving the contracting of that shipyard deal with taxpayer financing to a state-run shipyard in China. They want to see the emails. They want to see the memos. They want this by September 16th. They mean business. The MP who sponsored that motion, Dan Albus, he's from Okanagan Lake in BC, said we can stop this loan. They are deadly serious.
Tom, as always, appreciate the work that you do. Thanks for being here again.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski is the managing editor of the Blacklocks Reporter. Check it out for yourself. Subscription-based and well worth it at blacklocks.ca, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. Tom joins us every Wednesday morning at this time on The Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just thinking back on that story from Tom Korski about the Federal Civil Service and the Treasury Board making it clear that thou shalt not post offensive things on social media, especially during company time. The fact that a federal government department needs a directive on this. Well, I mean, maybe I shouldn't even put it that way. Maybe I should say needs a directive about this today, because I think many of us in our workplaces have had to endure. That's not the right word. Companies, I think, make it pretty clear that, you should be. How many people have put in their social media bio, my posts do not reflect my employer or something like that? But you kind of are an extension, aren't you? If you are employed, maybe we're meddling in free speech here. I don't know. But I wonder if you've ever run afoul of standards of the place you work or anything else when it comes to social media. Have you ever gotten in trouble for a post? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. I made reference to the member of the civil service federally and the F-bombs, and I said, I think that my parent company, which of course is Rogers Sports and Media, would have serious concerns if I was regularly posting F-bombs online. And then I remembered, even as I was saying that, and I saved the story till now, there was one time, if there was more than one, I'm going to plead ignorance because I can't remember. I've been using social media, particularly the X/Twitter platform, for a number of years. But there was one time I remember vividly and I did it for shock value. See how did I just become a shock jock? Maybe I did. But City of Kitchener made a council decision that I was really supportive of. I loved what they did, and so I posted on X or Twitter about it and said something along the lines of, that is bleeping awesome. Nobody bleeped me, and I don't usually do that. I really try to keep it at a very high level of decorum when I use social media, because I think of it as an extension of what we do here on this show, and we don't use language like that on the show. And frankly, there are, especially when you are posting to social media, you have all kinds of opportunity, ample opportunity to, present the message in a different way, present it more clearly, present it more appropriately, et cetera, et cetera. But multiple times, up to, close to a dozen times a day, this lawyer posting F-bombs here, F-bombs there. It surprises me, quite frankly, that in the modern day, we need to remind people of this. If you are in the employ of an organization, your actions on social media may well be a reflection of that organization. And perhaps you don't want to paint it or cast it in a bad light. Somewhat related, I wanted to share this with you because it's something that we talk about quite a bit, and that is, of course, our young people and their phones and the impact that those phones have on our young people, what it's done to them overall in terms of their overall mental and even physical well-being. And we're at that time of year, aren't we, where, oh boy, it can be difficult. Like, I remember being a kid and saying, I'm bored on the first day of summer break. Like, come on with your coming on. I got over it, believe me. But here is some really interesting results from a survey of kids aged 8 to 12, 75% of whom agreed that they would be on their phone less if they could play in their neighborhood more. And if they were given the choice between unstructured play, like a pickup basketball game or exploring the neighborhood, adult-led activities like ballet or soccer, or socializing online, they would pick unstructured play, like pickup basketball or exploring the neighborhood, more than any other, and it wasn't even close. They are craving, they are basically asking for free time with each other in real life. The phones are not the desire, they are the default. So what we need to do is give them the opportunity to go and engage with one another. And yes, parents, that might even mean letting your child walk to the park or around the block all by themselves. You see the connection here? Because I know, listen, I'm a parent too. Been there. It's weird, right? But you just, a little bit more free range, I think, would go a long way. But the kids, they don't want to be on their phones. They want to be outside engaging with their peers. At least that's the finding of the poll of kids aged 8 to 12. I'm going to assume it wasn't an online poll. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. A few minutes away from 10:30, your update in the 570 News Center. As you know, our phone lines are always open so we can hear from you at any point during our program. If something we talk about inspires you to call, hey, we love to hear from you. Sean on the phone this morning. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. You were talking about getting in trouble for what you post.
Yes, sir. Have you ever been in trouble for a social media post?
I have, and it wasn't even what I said on it.
Come on.
Do you remember the island to do about the island in the river in Galt last year?
I certainly do. Yeah, it was kind of like a man-made thing, and I think somebody who was unhoused was living on it.
They were not, but I posted a picture of said island. Okay, I will not mention my employer, but you can guess. I posted a picture of said island in Facebook. Just, I said, I didn't mention any comments. I just said, here's the island in the middle of the Grand River. All of a sudden, all these comments were added to the picture about all the homeless living on it and all this and encampments. And, well, didn't certain people get bent out of shape about that? I was advised very quietly that I better do something about that.
Really? It's so interesting. But wait,
I had to block all comments on it. I got into trouble. I didn't even say anything. I had to block the comments.
That's wild. So
that's how sensitive people are.
Well, okay, and I think you're getting somewhere here. But I did think it was somebody who was unhoused that was living there. But you say no.
No, what that happened is they had put a little red wagon on there with a little Canadian flag.
Okay.
On top of it.
Oh, that's right. It was a little make-work project. Give yourself something to do.
Yeah, they stuck a little wagon on there. Then at one point there was a little barbecue in there for a while. Then the barbecue vanished. And then, of course, the floods came and wiped away all that stuff. The island's still there to this day. But, I mean, all the comments were so brutal. I had to block comments on it because I was getting in trouble over what other people were saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they took your post one way, and then you were nudged to perhaps change your post.
And all I did was simply make an observation. Here is an island in the middle of the Grand River that wasn't there before, and everybody went berserk over it.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Sean. Appreciate it. All right, take care. Listen, social media. I mean, I look forward to deactivating every one of my social media accounts when I'm old and ready for my rocking chair. Then again, how would I be able to stay in touch with all of you, all 136 of the members of Farwell's force? How could I stay in touch with all of you without social media when I'm in my rocking chair? Maybe what we'll do is what the kids I told you about a moment ago want to do. 8 to 12-year-olds were asked, and they said, we would rather be outside exploring our neighborhoods as opposed to inside on our phones. The phones are the default. It's because they've got nothing else to do. The desire is to be outside. So maybe we'll just find a coffee shop or a nice tree to sit under at the park, and we'll stay in touch that way. We'll bring our rocking chairs. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You know that we're all about transparency on this show. So in the interests of that, I will tell you that there were conversations. You know how guys get together? We've got that group of buddies, right? And we're going to do one of two things. We're going to start a band or we're going to open a bar. That's always what we do. Well, my buddies and I got to talking about maybe one day, like one of us wants to try stand-up comedy. But in order to support one another, we were going to have other members of our friend group do what we called the anti-routine, which would be so bad that no matter how bad we were when we were seriously trying, it would seem kind of good. I bring all of this up by way of introduction to our next guest, who is Alex McFarlane, the founder of Rusty Nail Comedy. I never would have the courage to try stand-up, but gosh, do I love a good performer. Nice to see you, Alex.
Great to see you again. Yes, I think I did that set, the
anti-routine.
I think I've done that one before.
How is life in the stand-up world?
For us, it's great right now. Just the talent in Canada is really underappreciated, I will say. Now I'm a little biased there, obviously, but the talent that we have and the talent that Rusty Nail Comedy brings to Kitchener-Waterloo is, we're very proud of it. I mean, just last weekend, Darren Rose from Letterkenny, Mr. D was our headliner. So, yeah, the comedy world, it's a tough world. It's up and down, just like any entertainment, but we're very proud of what we have, and right now we're the only Friday, Saturday night comedy club in Kitchener-Waterloo or Waterloo region. So, yeah,
you and I were talking during that news update that it's a decade now, and I have to think, Alex, that this isn't something when we're in school and they say, what do you want to do when you grow up? It probably wasn't the plan. How did it start?
No, it's funny you say that, actually, because you started this by saying opening in a bar or something like that. That was always kind of my dream.
Okay.
And I think it's that, like I did hospitality and culinary school, and I always liked having the party and kind of being the entertainment. It's one of those classic stories of, like, I was kind of the class clown. The teacher at the end of the class would let me talk for a few minutes so I wouldn't talk through the whole class. So just kind of fell into it that way, to be quite honest. A friend of mine went in a DJ competition, which sounds weird. I was a little jealous. I'd always written jokes, so I'm like, I'm going to go in a comedy competition. And it was at the Yuck Yucks in London, and I happened to win that competition, and it just kind of went from there. Yeah. And then as far as producing the shows and opening comedy clubs and doing shows, it was just, Canada is a very big country, so there's a lot of traveling involved. So I wanted to make it kind of a local thing. Kitchener-Waterloo didn't really have anything. And again, just the talent in this area is so good that, it just kind of snowballed from there.
Fantastic.
And it's been amazing.
Absolutely love the story. And going strong 10 years in.
Yeah, the last couple of years have been amazing, and it really has to do with the community of Kitchener-Waterloo, Waterloo region. The word of mouth, people just talking about us. It's been a dream. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah.
So
it's been a dream.
We're not far away. One of the other things you and I were talking about during the news update is how fast time seems to go by.
Crazy.
And if we flip the calendar one more month, it's already September.
Fall. Yeah, it's weird to think about fall. I've gone through a lot of Gold Bond powder in the last 8 weeks. I haven't worn pants in 8 weeks, so it's interesting.
Thank you for wearing pants when you came in today.
My pleasure. My wife made me. So Rusty Nail Comedyfest a month from now starts September 11th. It's 11th, 12th, 13th at the Walper Hotel, TWH Social, downtown Kitchener. We are so excited about it. It's our 4th year. Again, it starts Thursday, September 11th, with two of the best headliners in the country, Martha Chavez, Adam Christie, who used to be the head writer at This Hour, has 22 Minutes, but actually left there to focus more on stand-up and nominated for Best Comedy Album for the Juno. So we're really excited about it. The Friday, the 12th, and the 13th, we have shows at 8 and 10 o'clock. So the whole weekend, I think we have 7 shows total, and really highlighting the best comedians in Canada. Funny thing is, when I mention some of those names, a lot of people don't know them, right? Canada has not a great star structure. Certainly to our people down south, it's a little different in the U.S. But I promise you, these are the best comedians in the country, and tickets are only $20. And we're very proud of that. We like being the best value entertainment. We like supporting downtown Kitchener, small businesses. So, yeah, we're very, very excited about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, along with supporting the downtown and small businesses, when Comedyfest rolls around, you like to add a little charitable component to it as well.
Absolutely. So our 3 big ones, and I want to be clear about this, we don't put it on our posters. We don't... we try and be a little humble about it, but we give back. This is our 4th Comedyfest, so we give back to our 3 big ones: our Nutrition for Learning, who help kids eat, so they can do better in school, which is a very, thing that is close to my heart because, school wasn't my best forte. So when you're not eating, it makes it even tougher. Then, of course, the food bank, which we always try and give as much as we can back to them. They are, a lot of people are using it these days. So, and then our other one is the Women's Crisis Center of Waterloo Region. Another one a little close to my heart. My mom and dad were very involved with St. Mary's and El Sama House. So, we'd like to give back to that too. So, some of the proceeds from Comedyfest are going to go to those 3, and That comes from my socialist parents who always say, you got to give back. And I believe that you got to give back to the community that gives to you. And Waterloo Region has been unbelievably supportive of Rusty Nail Comedy. So, yeah, we're very happy about that.
And Selma House, Haven House, a couple of great shelters operated by Women's Crisis Services of Waterloo Region, and then the Food Bank of Waterloo Region and Nutrition for Learning, like you talked about.
Amazing work.
They really do. And they're filling such important needs. Yeah, how they do what they do. Like, look at us.
Yeah.
We get to have, so much fun doing what we do.
Yeah.
And that's some, I know they approach their work with joy and a great attitude, but hats off to what they do there.
Yeah.
How can people support? We're a month away.
Yeah.
But and you meant $20 for tickets?
That's right. And then actually we have a promo for people that are listening right now for the gala night, the opening night on September 11th. If you go to rustynailcomedy.com and you go to for that show, if you put in the promo code Farwell, Farwell, you get another discount on your tickets. So if you go to rustynailcomedy.com, you can see all the lineups and all the ticket information there.
I love it. We've got the Farwell Force. Now we get the Farwell discount at rustynailcomedy.com. It's going to be a great weekend of entertainment. Comedyfest 4 in downtown Kitchener. Way to go.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
really
for being here. Always good to see you.
Great to see you too.
Keep up the great work.
Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Alex McFarland joins us. He is the founder of Rusty Nail Comedy. Comedyfest starts the opening night, September the 11th. That's a Thursday. Downtown Kitchener at the Walper and TWH Social. rustynailcomedy.com. Put in Farwell for your discount. We'll take a break. We just talked about the food bank. That's coming up in your Farwell report and more, which is next on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You have heard the news. Now let's put our own little spin on it, shall we? With your Farwell report. Some headlines we like to bring you during the show just to keep you in the loop on things. And how about this one? It's a story that we talked about on this show probably in the last 6 to 9 months or so, but you've heard of kite fighting and the problem that it has become around the region. Basically, what kite fighting is a sport where you fly a kite into the air, but these kites have on them, on the lines, they're sheathed with glass or other sharp objects, and the idea is to cut the other kite out of the air, and if you can successfully do that, you win the kite fight. The problem, of course, is all of the debris left behind. It not only makes a mess, but it can be harmful to wildlife, livestock, which is why council in Wellesley Township has now passed a bylaw prohibiting all kite fighting on private and public property in the township. This is a going concern in Wellesley because that became a desirable destination for the kite fighters, wide open fields, et cetera, et cetera. But what those kite fighters didn't realize is that they were actually on private property, or their kites went into private property. So the new bylaw in Wellesley can be enforced by both township bylaw officers as well as regional police. Every person, not including corporations, convicted of an offense under the bylaw is facing a maximum fine of $5,000 for a first offense, $10,000 for a subsequent offense. For corporations, if convicted under this new bylaw in Wellesley, it's a maximum fine of $50,000 for a first offense, up to $100,000 for a subsequent offense. So a kite fighting bylaw now in place in Wellesley Township. Food programs around the region. Just talked about this with Alex McFarland. Not seeing, though, as many international students as they were a year ago. Take Trinity Community Table in Cambridge, for example, which offers a free lunch program. Saw 70% of its attendees identifying as students just a couple of years ago. Now, that number is down to 10%. Food Bank of Waterloo Region, student visitors to a hamper program down about 20% now. And the Cambridge Food Bank says it saw its student numbers drop about a year ago when Conestoga College offered more assistance to students. Hey, let's hear it for not Bop, but Mboko. Victoria Mboko faces 9th seed Elena Rybakina tonight at the National Bank Open semifinals, the tennis tournament. This has been a stunning tournament for Mboko in Montreal. The 18-year-old Canadian kid has dropped just one set all tournament, and she will be in the top 50 in the women's tour by the end of this week. Toronto International Film Festival, keeping with sports, has revealed its lineup of international films, including a Canadian remake of the hockey classic Youngblood. Do you remember that movie from back in 1986? Rob Lowe was in the starring role on skates as Youngblood. Patrick Swayze, a young Keanu Reeves. This time, though, the story will follow a black hockey protege played by Ashton James. And something tells me in the modern day, because of our modern sensibilities, I don't think the character played by Ashton James is going to have to fight Carl Racky, right? Because that's what Youngblood was all about. You had to be tough. You had to fight. I don't think they're going to put that in the 2025 movie. And finally, if you get a smile when you drop something in the garbage in Guelph, well, you can thank Tom Moffat, the 70-year-old who suffered a stroke 10 years ago, now gets around in an electric wheelchair, but he uses the chalk that he carries with him to draw little smiley faces on garbage cans along trails and parks, other public trash receptacles in the Royal City. Tom says it gives him a sense of purpose, even though it's a small sense of purpose. The garbage cans are smiling at you in Guelph, thanks to Tom Moffat. And that is your Farwell report for this Wednesday morning. The Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Some big changes this year for the annual Wellesley Fair as it shifts from a midweek fair in September to a weekend fair on the fourth weekend of this month, now that we're into August. Joanne Stewart is the president of the Wellesley and Northeast Hope Agricultural Society, and Susan Prang is the vice president. Joanne, why the shift this year to a weekend fair in August?
We were one of the last two, shall we say, fairs that were still operating as a midweek fair, and we were finding that that doesn't suit our communities anymore. Years ago, when the fair was evolving or created, people in the township the businesses were closed for the day, kids were off school for the day. This was a very big community event. Well, over the past years, businesses stay open. The school children are no longer allowed to leave school. They're allowed to leave school, but only on the permission of their parents. The school does not shut down completely in the area. So, and also a lot of people are working. We're a farming community, but we have a lot of people now that are working in the big cities, shall we say, as far away as some of them, Toronto in our community. So it doesn't suit anymore. So we feel that by moving to the fourth Friday and Saturday in August, it enables the community to come out and enjoy this festive event.
We make this switch from midweek in September to the weekend in August. What can we expect, though, at this year's fair?
Oh, we've got all kinds of great things to expect. So we have our regular things, our junior and senior ambassador competition. We've got all of our exhibits, and we have about 460 categories of exhibitions that people can enter into. And we have a baby show, a pet show, our horse and livestock show. We've got our parade on Saturday. We have the Wellesley Idol semifinals. We have an agri-venture tent. We'll have line dancing. We will have a magician, roaming jugglers, food trucks, and most importantly for the kids, inflatables will be there for them to enjoy.
Joanne, where and when will we find the Wellesley Fair this year?
Okay, the Wellesley the Wellesley Township Fall Fair will be taking place at the new Wellesley Rec Center, which is at 1401 Queensbush Road in Wellesley. It gates open at 5 o'clock on the Friday and proceed the rest of the evening. Saturday, they're open at 10, and we'll finish off on Saturday with a fireworks around 9 o'clock that night.
So the 22nd and 23rd of August, a shift from the past, from a midweek to a weekend fair, but a great time to be had, family fun for all in Wellesley. Susan, Joanne, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Just a couple of weeks until the Wellesley Fair, shifting from September to the fourth weekend of this month of August. Yes, kids, you're a month from going back to school. And don't even get me started with the Halloween stuff that's already on display in some stores. Come on with your coming on. An update from the 570 News Center, and then we're going to talk some baseball with Blue Jay Hunter next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The Whiz Kids had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter, the Barber and the Nuke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
It's Wednesday morning. The 11 a.m. news has just ended, and that means it's time for the one and the only Blue Jay Hunter. Our Ian Hunter joins us in studio to talk Blue Jays baseball every Wednesday morning at this time. Mr. Hunter, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I keep going back to, and I was just talking to a buddy about this over the weekend. In April and even into May, when you and I started these conversations, it was like, tear it down, who are you trading? And now, especially after the last couple of nights, things seem like they are where they should be with the run the Blue Jays went on, holding on very comfortably. Wow, comfortably enough to first place. It's so much fun, and that's what people are saying. It's so much fun to see this because maybe it's kind of unexpected.
Yeah, totally. I mean, recently I feel like maybe I know what it's like to be the Yankees fan base because the Blue Jays are now the hunted, not so.
Not you can say it. You can use your own name.
Yeah. So it is an odd sensation because it feels like every series is important. So it's not just, we lost 2 out of 3. Oh, well, you've got 2 to 3 teams nipping at your heels like the Red Sox or the Yankees. So the stakes are much higher. But as you've said, they've kind of, although they had a disappointing end to that road trip in Detroit and Baltimore, they finished that road trip 4-4. You know, they lost 2 out of 3 to Kansas City, but they've now won the first 2 in this Rockies series. So, yeah, I think basically all they have to do from here on out is play 500 baseball and they'll win 90 games. So that's kind of like a bare minimum to likely make the playoffs. But if you want to secure that division, probably going to win a few more. But I certainly think it's doable, right? Like, at the beginning, there was times in May when I thought, I don't know if this team's going to make the postseason. And now it's a shock. It would be a shock if they don't make the postseason.
You mentioned feeling or understanding how Yankees fans feel, but let's just for a brief moment, because you also dropped their name. How about those Boston Red Sox? They're hot as a pistol lately, too.
Yeah, so they are the hottest team in baseball right now. They have won, I believe, they were 13-1 at Fenway Park in their last 14 games. So, yeah, Red Sox are 23-7 in their last 30. It's odd because I know a lot of people kind of picked the Red Sox as a darling to win the American League East, and they obviously had a really rough first half, traded away their franchise third baseman and Rafael Devers, and I just kind of assumed, okay, they're waving the white flag on this season, but they've been playing their best baseball of the season. So all of a sudden, it's funny. The Yankees, I feel like, are beating themselves, not letting other teams beat them. But the Red Sox now are all of a sudden a problem for the Blue Jays.
It's funny, the Yankees beating themselves. What was the historical stat the other day, just over the weekend, where I think it was every player that the Yankees had traded for factored in some way into a historic loss?
The very first game, a bunch of their relievers, I think they combined to give up 9 earned runs. They're new relievers, and their new infielder booted a ball, and they lost a game to the Miami Marlins, and now they're riding a 5-game losing streak, and they're only a half game up on the final wild card spot. So if the Rangers beat them today, the Rangers can leapfrog the Yankees and push the Yankees out of a playoff spot, which is wild because they were running away with the American League East just a few months ago, and now they're in danger of not even being in the playoffs.
All right, enough with the rest of the American League East. I actually like the Red Sox a little more than the Yankees, but I mostly hate them both because I'm a Jays fan.
Equal opportunist.
Exactly. Yeah. When last we talked, Ian, it was just ahead of the trade deadline, and you talked about what you thought or what you might hope the Blue Jays would have done. How do you assess the performance of the front office in shoring up this roster at the deadline?
Yeah, I don't think they had the sexiest trade deadline. They didn't go and get impact players like, the Yankees did, the Astros or the San Diego Padres. But I think they kind of plugged the holes that they needed to. We mentioned that they basically needed 2, potentially 3 relievers, and they went and got that in Sir Anthony Dominguez and Louis Varland. They also got a starting pitcher, albeit an injured one, in Shane Bieber, who's coming back, and you got a right-handed bat in Ty France. So it's hard to judge these things in a vacuum because these guys have only been around for a week, but I think the names on paper, there were some pretty interesting trades. Like I think Shane Bieber might be the biggest wild card of any player that moved at the deadline, right? Like he has been a frontline starter, a number 1 guy, a former Cy Young winner. He can be one of the best pitchers in the league when he's healthy. It's a huge caveat, but I think the Jays are thinking ahead to October, pitching deeper into the playoffs. They're not just doing this to bring him in and make a 6-man rotation for August and September. They want this guy to pitch game 1, game 2 of the playoffs. So overall, I think the Jays did pretty decent. I feel like maybe if they got one more reliever, that would have fortified the bullpen a little bit more and maybe got a guy other than Ty France who maybe could hit left-handed pitching. But overall, like if you had to give it a grade, I'd probably say like a B-ish for that.
I had hopes of a bona fide ace. And I know, you can wish for all kinds of things. I don't know what was on the market and if anybody was, if the Jays could meet the price. But if I take that a step further and you're starting a playoff series tomorrow, who are your 3 guys?
I mean, I feel like it's changing week by week here, right? Like earlier in the season, it was, Bassett, Barrios, Gausman are your 3 guys, your horses. But all of a sudden, Eric Lauer and Max Scherzer have pitched their way into the equation now. So I really don't know. I feel like today I'd probably say Gausman, Lauer, and Scherzer, which is crazy, right? Like skipping over Barrios and Bassett. They've been 2 workhorses for this team over the last several years, but they tend to give up a ton of home runs, and Bassett, I believe, leads the league in giving up hits this season. So when they start games, they can very quickly go sideways. So if it's like a do-or-die playoff game, I don't know if I trust those 2 right now. But yeah, I would probably, and it depends with Shane Bieber too. Like you factor him into the equation, he probably leapfrogs right to the front of the starting rotation. So maybe we see a 3-game starting rotation of Bieber, Scherzer, and Lauer, which is wild, but I mean, that's definitely on the table right now.
And see, I'm riding this high. Believe me, I'm all in, having so much fun with the Blue Jays. But if I was being the negative, the dark cloud I will bring is you just don't have the answer. Like this is the guaranteed opening day or playoff opening starter, right? They still don't have that guy.
No, and I think we talked about this last week. Like the Jays basically have a bunch of number 3 starters. There's no bona fide ace. I mean, Kevin Gausman was that a few years ago, but he's not quite that guy anymore. Same with Jose Barrios and Shane Bieber. It's not like he's going to hit the ground running. He's been rehabbing from Tommy John. So even when he comes back, he's probably going to be on a pitch limit Maybe we only see him in 5 or 6 inning stints. But out of all those guys, if you had to pick the guy with the most upside, it's probably Shane Bieber, which is crazy to think of someone who hasn't pitched in almost a year and a half. But that's kind of where we are with this Blue Jays starting rotation.
It's a lot of fun right now being a Blue Jays fan. And if you want to get in on the conversation, your voice is always welcome. As Blue Jay Hunter joins us every Wednesday morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Wednesday morning, we are joined on the show by the Blue Jay Hunter, our very own Ian Hunter, to talk some Blue Jays baseball. And it has been a fun ride that has returned to the top of the roller coaster after a couple of blowout wins over Colorado. Let's go to the phones and hear from you this morning. Dan, good morning.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Good, and you?
I'm good, thanks. Glad to talk about the Jays. I don't think what I'm going to say is anything new, but it just seems that pitching over the past, I'm going to say 6 to 10 years, has always been an issue with us. And this year, because we're playing so well as a team and everyone's kind of coming up big on different occasions, it still boils down to the pitching. And I don't think they did enough to address that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Last time I checked, the Jays, in terms of starting pitching, were bottom third in the league in ERA. They tend to give up quite a few home runs compared to other teams in the American League East as well. And as we know in the playoffs, it always comes down to pitching. But I guess the one good thing is that in the playoffs, it also gets very specialized, and you tend to shorten games. Like, starters are not going 6 or 7 innings in the playoffs ever regularly. So that's typically when you're deploying your high leverage relievers and really going specialized. So bullpen wise, this year compared to last year, the Jays are miles ahead of where they are. So I feel a little more comfortable. But yeah, I think that's maybe why this is a good test here, because the Jays have, once Bieber returns, you've got 6 starting pitchers. Alek Manoah is also rehabbing as well too. So maybe he returns to the fold at some point. Maybe they bring him in as a reliever later in August or sometime in September. But yeah, I think if there's one thing that's going to be the undoing of this Blue Jays team this year, it probably is going to be the starting pitching, because for the most part, the offense has been pretty consistent.
I think that's a fair point by Dan. That's the glass half empty approach to this, but we were just talking about it a moment ago. And please, you talk about specializing in the playoffs. Let's not have a repeat of Jose Barrios on cruise control getting taken out of a game. Please.
I think hopefully they learned their lesson, and we're trying to be too cute and too smart. And hopefully we avoid that again this year.
All right. Back to the phones we go for Ron. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Mike and Blue Jay Hunter. Yeah, I was going to ask about Alek Manoah, because we haven't heard much about him lately. I know that he's rehabbing now. I'm just curious on what the schedule is, if he's going to be returning at for this year or not.
Yeah, so I think he's starting down in Dunedin. They're just really, when you're coming back from Tommy John, you want to go pretty slow, low and slow in terms of pitches. So, like, for example, Shane Bieber is coming back from Tommy John. I think he's only had 4 or 5 rehab starts. He's probably going to get one more before he gets reactivated next week, potentially. But yeah, the thing with Manoah is if they didn't pick up Shane Bieber, maybe they'd be rushing a little bit more to get Manoah back into the fold. But I think if anything, maybe he comes back in September as like a relief guy, maybe a long man potentially. But yeah, there hasn't been any concrete update on his return or rehab outings as of late, but he is starting to ramp up. So he's coming back into the fold. It's just going to be pretty slow.
I just wanted to add one thing on the Biebs. That's what we're calling him, right?
Sure.
Shane Bieber. Okay.
Okay.
But and as you already said, it's a wild card, of course, as he's coming back from Tommy John. But it's, though he's not 25, he's also not 35 years old. And if this gamble, to an extent, pays off, you might have your number one guy for a few years as a 31 to 34-year-old pitcher for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think the Jays were obviously thinking ahead to next year too, because Chris Bassett and Max Scherzer are free agents at the end of this year. Kevin Gausman and I believe Jose Barrios can opt out of the rest of his contract at the end of next year too. So I believe Bieber has a player option, which means the player kind of has the onus whether they want to come back or not. But we've seen with the Jays before. They traded for Jose Barrios, and he had 1 year of control left, and then they got him to re-sign a long-term extension. So maybe this is the case where the Blue Jays are like showcasing themselves to Bieber, saying, hey, you can be the number one guy on this team next year if you come back. We've got a decent foundation here. We've got Vladdy signed long-term. Maybe they're thinking about bringing back Bo Bichette as well. So depending on how well this Blue Jays team performs this year, maybe that tips the scales in the favor of the Blue Jays in bringing back Bieber long-term. So regardless of what happens the rest of this year, I think next year is going to be a really crucial year for him. And maybe he tests free agency and doesn't return to the Blue Jays. But I think as of right now, the Blue Jays have a foot in the door at least.
All right, let's squeeze in one more before we call it a day with Blue Jay Hunter. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. Ian, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
When the playoffs start, do they still start off a guy on second base, if it goes to extra innings, on second base?
I don't believe so, no. I think we go back to regular extra innings rules, which is just the way we used to play it back in the day, 3-4 years ago, which is no ghost runner on second, which is, I think for the playoffs, that's probably the way to go because to me, it still feels wonky when they do this in extra innings. It is a bit gimmicky. So I'm glad they don't do that in the postseason. But yeah, it's just back to regular rules once we get into the playoffs.
Good question, though, Mark. Just like the shootout in hockey, which is goofy and gimmicky and should be banned forever. Real quick, Ian. Dalton Varsho seems to be like this is again addition. You didn't have to make a trade. You said it last week. He's coming back.
Yeah.
Boy, is he back. 3 homers in 2 games.
I guess that was their trade deadline acquisition, their big bat, right? So he had 8 homers in 24 games before he went on the IL. Now he has 3 homers in his last 4 games since coming off the IL. Let's see, 46% of his home runs this year have been home runs, which is crazy. 11 of 24 hits have been home runs. So amazing to see. And obviously it was Colorado. The numbers were inflated, but he hit the 2 longest home runs of the Blue Jays season last night alone, which was amazing to see.
Let's keep it up, finish off the Rockies today and move on to the next series and keep this train rolling. Always good to chat with you. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter. He joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 to talk some baseball on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We go from Blue Jay Hunter on Wednesday mornings at 11 to political R&D with Rob Deutschman at 11:30. Right after this update from the 570 News Center, why would a mayor remove a motion from a council agenda before said council even had a chance to discuss said motion? That happened in Cambridge, and we'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio.
I pulled into Nazareth, was feeling about half past dead. I just need some place where I can lay my head.
Rob Deutschman, when he joins us on Wednesday mornings at 11:30 for Political R&D, always picks a song. It's his choice to start the segment. And I hope he just wanted to listen to some good Canadian content. Good old rock and roll from the band, not by any means making a reference to the weight of the chain of office. Are you, Rob Deutschman?
Put the load on me, brother. I was thinking we should go find a shady spot and a few wobbly pops and just enjoy the rest of the day listening to the band. I mean, I just love that song. But, I was listening to your first segment and I heard the Blue Jay song and I thought, maybe you and I could, after a few Face for Radio pops, crack out our own little theme song.
I like it.
We're talking
I like it.
politics.
You're wearing the Blue Jays cap today.
Yay.
Everybody's excited. We're
That's
all on the
right.
bandwagon.
Jays and Mboko, right? That's those are the big sports stories. So looking forward to watching her play later on today as well.
Well,
so.
since you brought it up and we're talking sports stories, clearly you missed the Farwell report just after 10:45 today, because there's a remake of Youngblood coming our way too, Rob. The Rob Lowe movie from 1986 is getting a reboot, just to keep with the theme.
Okay, just on your Farwell 5, okay, this is part of the come on with your coming on hot take.
Bring it on.
Is it the top 5? Is it like the most important to the least important? Is it like the number 5 and the most important number 1 is blah, blah, blah? It should be like the Farwell top 5. It's just the Farwell 5, so I'm just throwing that out there for you. You might want to spice it up a little bit.
I try to go with
Do you rate them?
I do,
But then your first one, you say number 1. Is that like the most important or the least important, right?
Now I forget who it was. I think it was Kevin that called, because sometimes the music I use is the final countdown. He says you can't count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you're playing Europe's The Final Countdown. Anyway.
Just a thought. Anyway. Okay. And one last thing I'll just mention on roundabouts. When I drive in here, I cry.
You hate them, right? Just like I do.
Pass
It's
by
the worst.
I actually really do like roundabouts.
Ridiculous.
For the community, they're safer, et cetera. But I was noticing the one at Trustler and Ottawa is almost completed.
Oh, great.
So, but didn't you have a thing where you said after 175 roundabouts you were going to eat your shoe?
No,
Wasn't that,
no. It was
I think we're close to that.
175 speed cameras. And I should have mentioned this earlier. Way to go, Guelph. Good job. Did you see what they did to the speed camera over there?
Oh, what did they do now?
They chopped it down, knocked it down, painted it, whatever. I know that's vandalism. I know the police are frowning upon it.
We can't support that. But like we said,
I can.
It's going to be a...
You can. You're a lawyer. I can support whatever I want.
On your show, you cannot be advocating for anarchy in the community, okay?
Well, you know what anarchy is? 175 speed cameras. That's political anarchy.
I think Chief Crowell should take you to task next time he's on here.
It's a good thing he was just on yesterday. I've got a month's grace.
And next week we're going to talk about, I think we'll talk about the regional council opening.
Don't even.
I read some article in the paper today that was like Chicken Little screaming from the sky about our democracy being threatened here.
6 times,
fallacy,
Rob.
Fallacy.
No fallacy. 6 times we should have voted and we didn't.
We'll talk about how you're wrong next week.
6 times. It's embarrassing.
Okay.
Embarrassing.
It's not at all. But anyway, so is that a segue into the next thing that we're going to talk about?
Perhaps unintentionally. There was a motion,
yes.
and the motion had support. This is how it works. One councillor talks to the clerk about crafting a motion. Somebody's going to be ready to second it, so it gets on the floor so council can discuss it. This was going to be in Cambridge. The discussion would have been around removing people from encampments in severe weather, be it very cold or very hot.
Right.
And before the council meeting even happened, the mayor reached in and plunked that motion right out of the agenda. How does this happen, Rob?
I was shocked when I read that story, and I think I emailed you right away, so we have to talk about this. It is a bit surprising, quite alarming that this has happened. But Mike, we got to step back first. And the first thing we have to do is when we ask why did something happen the way it did, you have to take a look at the procedural bylaw of the particular municipality. Every municipality has their own procedural bylaw, which establishes, for example, how motions, in this case, how a motion is brought forward, what has to be done, and how notice is given of it, and then how is it dealt with at council? How does it get to the council table or the horseshoe, right, on the agenda? And so I got a copy of the procedural bylaw for the city of Cambridge to take a look at what happens there. Because at the region, for example, and I've moved many a motion at the region. What you do is you would prepare your motion, and you would forward it to the clerk 8 days in advance of a council meeting. Okay, and once you've provided that notice to the clerk, who then circulates it to the rest of council, once you've provided that notice, then it gets on the agenda. Okay, and it's dealt with by council at the meeting for the agenda it is part of. It can't be dealt with any other way other than at the council table.
And this really, I would think, Rob, is designed, though, so if a councillor in a given ward has a ward-specific issue, this is the way to get it on the full council agenda for discussion.
Sure. Anything, though. Any word specific, whatever, right?
I think that would be the ideal. If you need a three-way stop or whatever.
Yeah, we had one once about shark fin soup many years ago. But
really?
We won't get into that.
Oh,
but anyway,
I'm curious.
So once it's on, now, so I took a look at the Cambridge procedural bylaw. It's not the same as the regional one, for example. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. So what in the city of Cambridge, if a councillor is interested in bringing a motion, they have a discussion with the clerk. The clerk helps them shape it, and clerks will provide feedback because clerks they're the main person responsible for ensuring that your meetings go according to the rules. The procedural bylaw is really the responsibility of the clerk to ensure, because it's akin to Robert's Rules of Order. Okay. That's not me personally. It's a very well-known Robert's Rules of Order, right? But so in this case in Cambridge then, once you have that discussion with the clerk and you've kind of crafted your motion, under the bylaw, what you're supposed to do is then bring it yourself to a council meeting and indicate that you're going to be introducing this motion. And then it's dealt with at the following council meeting. Okay, so now it's seized of council has seized now this motion. Council is responsible for this motion. In this case, it wasn't quite clear, but it looks like councillors Hamilton and Earnshaw were working with the clerk and legal counsel, et cetera, to talk about this motion, although I'm not as concerned about the legal issues with respect to this motion because it's talking about encampments. And I think the councillors have the authority to do what they want to do about encampments, especially in the city of Cambridge. But anyway, so then what happens is it's in this case, they were informed by the clerk that it was going to be on, as Councillor Hamilton indicated, it's going to be on the addendum or it's going to be on the following council meeting. But then they got informed that the mayor decided to take it off. And I can tell you the procedural bylaw specifically says that after a notice of motion is moved at the council meeting or placed on the council agenda, it shall be deemed to be in the possession of council and may be withdrawn with consent of the mover and seconder. That's it.
And that did not happen.
No, that did not happen. The mover and seconder didn't consent to be removed. And so that's why I'm kind of surprised. Look, whenever someone is running or gets elected first, I always like to give them a call. I say, hey, congrats on getting elected or congrats on running. Here's some things you should be thinking about doing in order to get yourself up to speed. The most important things. And one of them is read the procedural bylaw so you understand how things function. Understand a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order. What's a motion to defer? What's a point of order, right? Those sorts of things. And also read the municipal rules of the Conflict of Interest Act. Okay, that's also very important. It's not long. It's like 15 paragraphs, but the implications can be pretty serious if you're found to be in a conflict of interest. You could have to forfeit your seat.
That'd be good because then council could just appoint somebody. Great idea.
Next week. You keep filling up next week's show. So in this case, then it was quite shocking to me that the clerk would allow the mayor to remove the motion before it was being dealt with. And I think there has to be some responsibility, not only with respect to members of council knowing the procedural bylaws and following them, but the clerk also ensuring that they're being followed properly. And so it's unfortunate because based on my reading of these of the procedural bylaw, councillors Hamilton and Earnshaw could have just went to that meeting on the 22nd and said, we're introducing this motion, and it would have been dealt with at the next one. Now, I know Councillor Hamilton wanted to have it dealt with in July because they weren't meeting again until September, but he could have moved that motion in July. There's no way he could have been stopped. Absolutely not. Now, what do you do in a situation like that, right? And we could discuss it, is who do you complain to? Because you have an opportunity to make a complaint.
Integrity Commissioner?
Is one. Ombudsperson is another one too. Ombudsperson looks at not only whether closed committee meetings are held properly, which is something that we've talked about in the past, but also whether your rules are being followed appropriately. And that would be the province then coming in to do an investigation. And, I really think that this is something that now it's sort of the second time in a month that we've talked about something that's happening there. And I know, there was a while ago where an integrity commissioner in Wilmot had brought forward a report about whether there was a violation when a bunch of members of council attended a public meeting. And that integrity commissioner went on to talk about, oh, okay, you're not playing nice in the sandbox with each other. And I say it that way because I thought the integrity commissioner was outside of their bounds in terms of that discussion. Look, there's a saying, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. You've heard that sort of situation. And I always say, similarly, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your council or members. And so you're going to be brought together. And there's times when you're going to have, we'll say, elbows up with each other. You know, you're banging in the boards in the corner or what have you, because it's going to be a little bit difficult from time to time. It can't always be happy, shiny people. And that's not only amongst councillors, but between councillors and staff. But in this situation, you have to ensure, though, that the rules are being followed. And it's clear the rules were not followed in this circumstance. And I think there needs to be an explanation for that. You know, perhaps the mayor didn't like the topic or was concerned about jurisdiction, because if there's an issue that's beyond jurisdiction of council, that can be removed. But I don't believe that this topic was outside the jurisdiction of council.
I think the undertone here, and we'll get into it right after the break, is the use and or abuse of strong mayor powers. I think there's a connection to that. You mentioned it's the second time in about a month we've seen something similar happen in Cambridge. There was a corporate restructuring led by the mayor with no input from council, and now the motion removed from the agenda. We continue political R&D with Rob Deutschman on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Rob Deutschman joins us every Wednesday morning at 11:30 for a little bit of political R&D. R for Rob, D for Deutschman, strong for mayor powers. Is that what Jan Liggett in Cambridge is calling upon here, Rob, to restructure an organization corporately without input from council and to remove items from the agenda at her discretion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the strong mayor's powers. I mean, you take a look at any council over the decades, so much has gotten done without the use of strong mayor's powers. So why did we suddenly need it? I can appreciate there's situations where one might have to enact strong mayor powers. I've seen it recently with some local changes with some personnel. But the classic example is that the mayor from Orillia, who in the middle of an ice storm said, I need strong mayor powers to deal with the ice storm, and then used it to fire the CAO that had just been hired from the city of Guelph. I mean, that situation is likely going to cost that. I'm just speculating as a lawyer, that municipality is going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars over the use of that, because there's going to be a lawsuit for sure.
Absolutely.
Person just quit his job, got his laptop and phone, getting ready to start. And now suddenly you just cast a huge cloud over this person. Now, I'm confident, like I talked to other CAOs, retired CAOs. You know, Jeff Wilmer just came back to the city of Wilmot. I keep in touch with Gary Dyke, who there's no lack of jobs to find out there. But, you know, it's embarrassing. It's going to cost them some money, I'm sure. And it just shows you that you give these powers to people who are unable to use it appropriately. And when you talk about the city of Cambridge, my understanding was that there was the sentiment that there was no need for strong mayor powers in Cambridge, and that it wasn't going to be used. And then we see it used just recently with respect to restructuring for staffing, and suggesting that council didn't need to be part of it. The strong mayor's powers did not apply to this situation, okay? Because strong mayor powers were allegedly brought in by the Ford government in order to help with the primary purpose was to build more homes. Okay. Well, this is nothing to do with building more homes by taking a motion off the floor of a council meeting. So it's strong mayor powers don't apply. There's nothing specifically referencing that type of ability in the strong mayor powers. So the only thing you could do is by analogy and say, well, broadly speaking, does it align with the purpose or intent of the strong mayor powers legislation? And it does not. There's absolutely no way. Someone might want to make that argument, but it's weak at best.
Do you think there's any way, Rob, that this genie gets put back in the bottle? Because I remember when strong mayor powers were granted, and just like you said, across the region. Oh, no, we're not going to need them. Mm-hmm. But Cambridge has certainly flexed that mayoral power. Is it ever going to be returned to the way it was?
I think it should be. It should be revoked. I think if we ever end up with a new government in Ontario, they should immediately revoke the strong mayor powers legislation. I don't believe that it's going to demonstrate that the strong mayor powers legislation helped build more homes. Okay, I don't believe that at all. We've seen for years many of especially locally, our municipalities have been very successful in getting approval for projects, housing projects. The issue is the economic environment is such that it's very difficult for private contractors to get out there and build. So, you could have the public try to do something, but government trying to do something takes a long time to get it done. And that's one of the things I've been mulling over about LRT. In terms of how long does it take to get to the next phase? I mean, look at it in North Dumfries. We're just twinning a pad that we initially built 15 years ago, right? So in public government, trying to force private industry to do things or trying to force the market, it's consistently a failure. I mean, are we going to see more EV battery plants built in Ontario? You can't pick winners and losers. And you can try and you can, pat yourself on the back when you think you're doing something right. But all it took is one election of a Republican president in the United States and the whole thing gets turned on its head. So now we're stuck with this situation where plans seem to be scaling back. And we're very uncertain as to what's going to be happening here.
Does this motion, final point, we've got about 90 seconds, in Cambridge, get to the council floor for discussion? It's got to somehow.
Oh, it can. Just follow, all they have to do is just follow their procedural bylaw. They could come back in September, they can introduce it and say we're bringing it back to the next council meeting, and it's seized of council and no one can touch it. And it can be done. It's not a problem. Here's the thing. That's why I say to people, read your procedural bylaws, understand what you can or can't do. We get into this situation where this is the way we've always done it. And I've got quotation marks, right? This is the way we've always done it. It's not necessarily being done according to the rules. Everyone goes along doing it this way, but it's not always that way. I'll give you a quick example. You bring a motion, somebody wants to make a change. They used to say, is that a friendly amendment?
Yep.
Okay.
I still hear a lot of it. Yeah.
Then I'm at regional council and the clerk there says, no such thing as a friendly amendment. You got to vote on every amendment. And then one day the clerk's gone and they got the assistant in and the assistant's allowing friendly amendments. So, I mean, that's it happens.
That's the way it's always been done. And yet you won't see my way on 6 consecutive appointments to council. And
Michael,
we should change this.
Very unfriendly amendment.
Okay. I can't wait to discuss it with you, sir. Thank you as always
in 2
for being
weeks,
here.
In 2 weeks. You got another holiday.
I'm like a teacher around here. Rob Deutschman joins us every Wednesday morning, 11:30 for Political R&D on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We try to get the answers to the hard questions on this show. Maybe those hard questions will come from you in the next 60 minutes. As we open things up to the Talkback Hour, love to solicit your feedback on the show. One of the questions I still have is how, on God's green earth, can we continue? Like, if you add it up and find the number to be 6 appointees to councils or school boards in just the past 3 years, at what point do you stop and say, I think we might be doing this wrong? Appointing people to councils so you, as councillors, are deciding who gets to join your club should be the exception, not the rule. But somehow, some way, we've allowed that to happen 6 times in the last 3 years, meaning on 6 occasions you have been denied your democratic right to cast a ballot in a by-election. Makes no sense to me. That's a hard question we need an answer to. Maybe you've got an answer or a different question. Talkback begins right after this update from the 570 News Center on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
I'll tell you what, for entirely different reasons, I am fired up having talked to Blue Jay Hunter and Rob Deutschman in the previous two segments. Blue Jay Hunter's got me all wound up about the quote-unquote sports weekend I had. I say quote-unquote because one of the sports, whoo-wee, I'm not sure if it should be considered a sport anymore, but maybe we'll get into that as Talkback continues. And then with Rob Deutschman, all things political. And I am so vexed by this council appointment at the region. It's just, it's wrong, in my opinion, to deny us the right to vote. Whether we exercise that right or not, I know the arguments against the by-election. It's costly and not enough people show up. Well, maybe we don't show up because we don't feel as though you care about our votes, because you don't give us a chance to vote when we should get a chance to vote. Hamilton, Ottawa, LaSalle, down by Windsor, all have council vacancies. All of them are holding by-elections. And they're doing it this fall, which is only about 1 year away from the next municipal election. That's the way it should be done. We gotta stop this. It's not okay. Somebody's got to say it's not okay, and I'm the one saying it's not okay. By the way, just received word from the city of Waterloo as well. You remember those live stream services that were operating during summer camps? Turns out that the city of Waterloo has learned that none of the streaming was downloaded or shared and had minimal views. So I hope that brings a little bit of comfort to a concerning situation when those cameras were operating during summer camps. Okay, it's your hour to talk back. So allow me to get out of the way and start answering phone calls. Chris, you get to go first. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how are you today?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
No, not so bad. I'm pleased to hear you're fired up about your Blue Jays. I thought maybe I could piggyback on that and see what your thoughts were on this year's Kitchener Rangers team coming together.
Absolutely. I would love to talk about them.
What are you thinking? Do you think Schaubel's going to get many starts, or are they going with that new kit for a bunch of starts?
Yeah, I think Schaubel will get more, and that's probably obvious to say. He's off to play in a Team Canada tournament this summer, and deservedly so. But yes, the kid they have signed from the import draft out of Switzerland, I do believe will carry the mail, as we say. He'll be the go-to guy, but Schaubel will continue to get increased starts because there's no question he's our goalie of the future.
Yeah. Have you heard any rumors on who's getting the C this year?
Well, I think, if I'm honest with you, Chris, I think that C is still claimed. I don't know for sure. Matt Andonovski will be back, obviously, as a signed player. Ottawa has the opportunity to put him into the American Hockey League, but I have a feeling that Matt Andonovski may still return to Kitchener, and it's to his C then.
Okay, I thought he was out. I thought he was an overager last year.
No, sir. He could still play. And again, that's I don't know. If I was putting odds on it, maybe a 60-40, 60% coming, 40% going. I don't know. He's a good player, and Ottawa may well want him in the American League. But I think he'll come back, and if so, then the C stays right where it is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It'd be good to see him back.
Absolutely.
Right on, Michael. Thank you very much.
Anytime at all, Chris. Appreciate hearing from you. I love it. I'll talk hockey anytime, and I'm so excited for the Kitchener Rangers this year. And the big thing that I'm interested in seeing is how they respond to being the team with the expectations on them. Because the last 2 years, in fairness, I don't think there were all that many expectations. And then the team clearly exceeded what was expected of them. And now it's prime time. And clearly they know they can play well. They have the last 2 seasons just thrilling us at the Odd and every other rink they played in. But now it's their turn, right? Now everybody, they're not sneaking up on anybody. So how do you respond to that? How do you carry the weight of the expectations? I have all the faith in the world that this team will. Can't wait. It's so exciting for me. And I'm sure you as a fan feel similarly. Love it. And by the way, preseason starts in 3 weeks. Kyle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to make a comment about those people that are waiting 2.5 years for bail.
Sure.
I'm not sure if there's a law or something going on with it, but I thought if you're held up for so long, there's a certain timeline before the trial is thrown out if you don't reach I don't know if it's an agreement or something where if you're held up too long, then they basically just say, the judge will say, you had the right to a fair trial, but it's too late now, so they just let you go or something like that. And I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but if so, that's what I'm also worried about. How many people are these that are guilty that are waiting so long, and then finally they're hitting that period of time where they're not even going on a trial because it's been so long that they're just throwing out the case. And it goes to those that are waiting for 2.5 years as well. I'm not sure, but I thought there was something that was something similar to that where there is that type of rule or law. I don't know what it's called, but if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but isn't there something along those lines? I'll let you go. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, Kyle, appreciate the call. Yes, I'm no expert by any stretch, but the spirit of what Kyle is saying resonates with me. After a certain period of time, it's entirely possible a case will be dismissed entirely because it did not get to trial in a reasonable amount of time. I don't know to which charges that would apply. I seriously doubt it applies to very serious violent offenses, homicide, etc. But absolutely that provision does exist. And what Kyle's talking about is the conversation we had earlier with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, who argue that holding people for up to 30 months, which they say 70% of people in provincial institutions right now are there waiting for a trial, up from 20% back in the early 1980s. So it's just gotten progressively worse over the decades. And the Canadian Civil Liberties Association argues that holding people without bail before trial, so they haven't had due process yet, for as long as 2.5 years, which the Civil Liberties Association says is the case, is denying them their liberty. And our courts are set up to safeguard one's liberty, right? Innocent until proven guilty. So that was the argument from the Civil Liberties Association. And it just brings to the fore one of the problems, one of the wrinkles within this idea, within our system overall, when we talk about bail reform. We want bail reform. We want tougher sentences. We don't want people re-offending while out on bail. And yet we have a system that just doesn't seem to efficiently move people through. And it becomes a problem. And we talk about these problems on the show and try to find solutions. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Talkback is your chance to do just that on the show. Reflect on something we talked about during the show today or bring something entirely new to the table. If it's important to you, it's important to us. Let's go right back to the phones. Lisa, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. Twice in one day.
That's my lucky day.
You brought up something when you were talking to Kyle just now that made me think of something I thought of before and didn't mention when we talked about bail reform.
Yeah.
People that are being held without bail, presumably there are some reasons for that. That's not just someone rolling a set of dice and saying, okay, it was 2 6s, you're staying in jail. There's either an overwhelming amount of evidence or it's a very serious crime or a combination of a few things. So, being held without bail basically to me means whatever you are being charged with, and there is some pretty concrete evidence, is dangerous enough that you really shouldn't be out on the street. But that's just my assumption, and I don't know if that's totally accurate or not.
No, I think you're barking up the right tree in this case, Lisa. It makes a lot of sense to me, and I think really what we're discovering in all of this, thanks to the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, is that there's a pretty big backlog, and we really better work on that.
And so they have to figure something out with the whole system. It's not just bail reform.
Great point.
There's probably a few different things that need to be looked at this point.
Absolutely.
Anyway, have a great afternoon, Mike.
Thanks, Lisa. You too. Good to hear from you. Always appreciate some sober second thought. We're like the Senate around here without the salary and the vacation time. Grant, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. I just read an article from several months ago about this political party. You probably heard of it.
Hang on a second. Why are you reading an article from several months ago now?
Because, I don't know.
Okay, I'm just curious. I like to read today's news today.
About this rhinoceros party.
Oh, the Rhino Party, yes.
Rhino party.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
It is. It's meant to be. It's just a farce of a party, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know Mr. Andonovsky's possibly coming back. I think what London should do too is bring Landon Sims back.
Landon Sim can't come back. He is done. He's overage now. He's graduated out of the league. You got to be in your bonnet about Landon Sim, eh?
Because he's a crybaby. There a while back, he
threw a big fit in Kitchener one time, yes, but that was just one game. He's not a crybaby.
That's why Andonovsky should clock him. Or if
Grant, are you promoting violence now?
Just two little crybabies.
Oh, okay.
Well, then I hope whoever he's playing against goes after him and says, I'm coming after you. It's too bad we can't fly in Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger and give it to him.
You want the Terminator to come in and give it to him. I'm going to be honest with you here. And if you're a little bit of a pearl clutcher, my apologies in advance. But it's one of the things I love about hockey. It's still a place, and I know this is not a universally popular opinion, but this is the way that I feel. It's still a place where actions have consequences. Whether you like the physicality, a.k.a. the punching in the nose that is allowed within the rules of the game or not, I personally think it's okay. All within reason, of course. But the bottom line is, you do X, the result is Y. And hockey still stubbornly, because many think it's a game that's stuck in the Stone Ages, but it continues to adhere to that mentality. And I kind of dig it. So to Grant's point, I'm not calling Landon Sim a crybaby by any stretch. He did have a big fit during a game in Kitchener because he wasn't happy, but it was one game. This guy played a 5-year junior hockey career. He's going to go on to play in another league. But if, as Grant says, somebody cleans his clock one of these days, well, then he probably had it coming within those confines of the game, right? You do this, you get that. Your actions have consequences. And I kind of dig that about hockey. Agree or disagree, but that's just where I'm coming from on it. As we continue with Talkback, where we agree or we disagree on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I mentioned earlier that Talkback is a place for us to talk about problems and maybe even discuss potential solutions. And as we try to solve one problem, it might just lead us into another. I shared with you earlier today on the show some new research that suggests our kids, this was a survey done of 8 to 12-year-olds, and these kids do not use their phones or sit and stare at their screens because they want to. They kind of just do it out of default. So it's not for desire of the technology, it's the default because they're not getting what they really want, which researchers found was unstructured outdoor play with their friends, a pickup game of basketball, exploring the neighborhood, etc. So if you're worried about the amount of screen time your child has, one way to reduce that would be simply to allow them some unstructured time for outdoor play. And the researchers went further to suggest that one of the best ways to encourage that is to allow your children some leash, if you'll forgive the turn of phrase. I don't want your kids on actual leashes, but let them go around the block by themselves. Let them go to the neighborhood park and explore things, which leads to this email from Clinton to Mike at 570news.com. Hey, Mike, hope this email catches you before you jet off on another vacation. Are you taking any more time off this summer? Soon you'll be like a teacher. Not unfair. I accept the criticism. I didn't mean to lump all the holidays together like they kind of have come together. But yes, as of tomorrow, I'm going to be disappearing again for about a week. Anyway, Clinton's email goes on to say, I wish I could feel safe letting my daughter enjoy that kind of freedom. But I just heard a report on the 570 News Update. Apparently, a young girl was playing when a man approached her, tried engaging in play and asking her a string of personal questions. Thankfully, a stranger stepped in and got the man to leave. But if not, things could have ended very differently. Stories like this, alongside the frequent reports of missing children, make it hard to feel confident letting my child explore freely, even if she's carrying a phone. Honestly, it feels like our city was a lot safer when I was growing up in the 90s, with block parents and designated safe zones on nearly every street. That sense of community has really eroded. I never see block parent and community safety zone signs anymore, and I miss that sense of community. I totally get where you're coming from, Clinton. I'm not sure it's disappeared, that sense of community, where we're all looking out for one another as neighbors. But yes, the block parent program and these community safety zones certainly have gone by the wayside. And I know it does. It does feel differently. I would submit to you, per capita anyway, there were as many of these creeps back in the day as there are today. It's just today they have a lot more ways, I think, of finding their prey, if that's the case. And we're so much more aware of it because we do share news stories and we're inundated with the news, unfortunately, most of it being of the negative variety. But I totally get where you're coming from. So if you try to solve the problem of kids being on their phones too much and send them outside to explore the neighborhood on their own, you run into the problem of, as a parent, feeling uncomfortable about that at times. And so the circle goes. We continue Talkback here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Just got to thinking with that email before the break from Clinton talking about how things have changed since when he was a kid. And I also got an email from my buddy Phil, who's enjoying a cup of coffee in the coffee shop where he was given his paper cup, as is tradition these days. And he reminded me, I'd forgotten all about this. He says, where's my old ceramic Tim Hortons mug that I used to get when I drank my coffee in the coffee shop? Oh, I'd almost forgotten about those things. You don't get them no more. That's too bad. Let's go back to the phones here on Talkback. Preston Paul, number 45 on Farwell's Force. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
All right.
Attaboy.
You're talking about the safety again.
Yeah.
And when I went to school in kindergarten, walked my very first day to the school, and then after that, out on my own the whole time. Always out walking, riding the bike, having fun, looking at this, checking out that, getting the fresh air, getting dirt in your nails, and now look at the way society has gone,
You nail it, Paul. It's kind of crazy to think about, isn't it? But that whole idea of come home when the street lights come on.
Yeah.
Like, I was out, too, the same thing, and my bike and me were best friends. I would ride all these trails, stop along the way, investigate something I saw, whatever. My parents clearly didn't care where I was as long as I came home for dinner.
Yeah, well, and our golden rule was, you do whatever you want, just don't let the cops bring you home.
Well, for sure. And it's not like I was causing trouble. Yeah.
That's true. That's right. And what I did get into was very, very minor, but most of it was just out just being a kid. One day you're playing ball, the next day you're throwing the football, the next day you're out fishing, riding your bike here, there, and everywhere. So,
Paul, really appreciate the call. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, you have a good holiday, Mike.
Thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon. And this is the thing. It seems so weird now, doesn't it? Because look, I'm not knocking Clinton and how he feels. That I could not imagine having let my kid at the age of 8, 9, 10 disappear all Saturday afternoon on his bicycle. But that's what I did. And nobody thought twice about it, as far as I could tell. Wasn't being brought home in a police car by any stretch, just out riding the bike, getting the fresh air, seeing what I saw, digging in the dirt. And now it's just crazy to think about how different it feels. Terry, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. If I was a kid today, I'd weigh 500 pounds because I'd never leave the house. Man, you got everything. You got
It's
Uber
so
Eats coming.
true. I know. That's the problem, Terry.
Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up in a relatively rough area in Galt, down by the junction there, Norfolk Avenue Road type area. And I used to get my head kicked in every day. And if I showed up at home...
Gee, why did that not surprise me?
Well, no, it was the
You're
neighborhood.
running your mouth a little bit, Terry?
No, it's the neighborhood.
Were you opinionated?
Cambridge was a rough area back then.
All right.
You got to remember, all the newfies were coming over from Bell Island, and all the as they used to call us wops, who's come up from the motherland.
Okay.
It didn't get along well, but anyway. And then if I showed up at home all bruised up, I even get beat up by my parents without fighting back. So, and then when I went to Toronto, I was in my early 20s, back in the 80s. I went to live there briefly for a handful of years. I thought, wow, this is great. This is much safer over here in Cambridge, or Galt as it was called back then. So yeah, going back to what I was saying when I started the conversation, yeah, if I was a kid today, Mike, with all the channels you have on TV, you got Xbox, and even food gets delivered to you right at your door, man. I don't know if I'd ever leave the house, ever. It's a much different society today, Mike. It's and another one that used to always get me was you'd be riding your bicycle, some guy would throw his hockey stick on your spoke, you go flying 10 feet in the air.
Yeah, that happened.
Lot of fun. Anyway, Mike, have yourself a good day. Thank you, sir.
All right, Terry, I appreciate it. I'm going to call some shenanigans, though, on those. It was just a rough neighborhood. What was I saying before about hockey? Why I still like it within the confines of the game. If you do X, you get Y. Every action has a consequence. I don't know, Terry. Maybe you brought some of it on. I don't know. Give him a hard time a bit. Mary, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Terrific.
Mr. Mike?
I'm terrific.
Mike with a mic.
How are
anyway.
you? Mary on a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 2 points, and Terry kind of brought one up. When I was 14, in other words, going from grade 8 to grade 9, I worked in Stratford, and I stayed there all week by myself without supervision. I could have done anything I wanted. And my parents pushed me to do that because they wanted me to pay board. So, hey, 14.
Get out there and earn a living.
No, okay. Well, the other point was, about the system. I believe the Liberals, you can correct me if I'm wrong, put this that they get out on bail because they said the prisons were full. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think I don't know what the waiting period to get to a trial or get bail is, but in 2023, Mary, the Liberals actually brought in stricter legislation around. They added more offenses to reverse onus, where the onus is not on the prosecution; it's on the accused to prove innocence.
Okay.
All right,
but the Liberals and the government tell us the jails or penitentiaries, whatever, are full to the brim.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. What did Blacklock say?
Federal penitentiaries have more employees than inmates at some prisons.
Yeah.
Federal, yeah.
So who's? I believe Blacklock.
All right.
I believe him.
I get you.
I think he's a good source.
He is a very good source.
And you have to be very, very wary today of what comes out and what you need to believe. Thank you. Have a great afternoon with a wobbly pop.
Thank you, Mary. I intend to. Every afternoon is made better with a wobbly pop. And yes, Tom Korski from Blacklock's Reporter joins us every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Great source for information. Mary is number 1 on Farwell's Force membership list. Donna is number 2. How lucky am I? Numbers 1 and 2 today. Hello, Donna.
You got that right. Hi, Mike. Before you go on vacation at 1 o'clock today, I just wanted to take a minute
be careful,
to wish
Donna.
you a very
Donna.
happy birthday next week.
You are something.
And we'll all look forward to having you back on the 18th.
Okay, Donna. Goodbye. I don't know how Donna does it. I don't know how she does it, but she does it. It's Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show. I still got 20 minutes before vacation starts. Keep them coming. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a busy Talkback Hour, so right back to letting you talk back. Anne, I think Anne is gone. I heard a beep, beep, beep. That's not a good sound or a good sign. Anne, if you want to call back, we now have a line for you. We'll get to the next call, though. Sonia, good afternoon.
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you doing, Mike?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Just a comment about kids and technology and being outside is we're super aware of how dangerous it is or the dangers that can exist for kids being outside. But I don't think enough parents stop and think about the dangers their kids are facing online. Because your child is physically sitting in your house, you feel as though they're safe. But what they get exposed to, even parents that are super careful with what kids get into online and who they chat with and all that kind of stuff, there's still ways around all of that. And I think it's a false sense of security that if your kid is inside on a screen, they're safer than they would be outside. I think people are missing that. There are a whole raft of dangers online that are potentially even more damaging for your kids than being outside. And plus, the online stuff is not developing their brains, it's not developing their bodies, whereas outside running around, it is. So, other things to think about. Just because they're physically sitting there does not mean they're any safer than running around the neighborhood.
Sonia, that is a fantastic point, and I can't believe I kind of glossed over it. You're absolutely right about that. Those screens open up a whole big wide world where there are all kinds of dangers lurking.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to forget that they're there because you just see your kid sitting there playing a game, but you don't know the chats that are going on or even the content that they're exposed to with all the different algorithms, that once you start looking at one thing, the other stuff that starts to show up in your feed, it's really deceptive. And unless you're super on top of it, you've got no idea what they're getting exposed to.
Thanks for the important reminder. Appreciate you calling in.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. That is an excellent point, and it completely escaped my mind as we were talking about this. I understand exactly what Sonia's saying with that sense of security or calm that you feel when your child is present in the house. But on the screen, they're almost not in the house anyway. Not to mention the myriad benefits one gets from simply being outdoors. Oh, so much better. Greg is next on Talkback. Good afternoon, Greg.
That'd be 38. So just in case there's more Gregs on your list.
I've got you down. Farwell Force, member number 38, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. So that's this one here. So two things just about the topic of the day about I used to not give it a second thought growing up beside Brighton Park, going over and all that kind of stuff. And,
sure.
And and then you know the group Train.
The musical group, yeah,
music group?
For sure, yeah.
I think it's Calling All Angels. They have a song actually that has a line saying, "Children have to play inside so they don't disappear." Like, what was that even? Like, that's true.
Well, I get that. Listen, like I said, it's a. You try to find the solution to a problem, which is let's get our kids off screens and outdoors, and then you realize, well, there's a problem perhaps associated with that. It's tough, for sure.
Yeah. I solved the problem for me. Don't have kids. There you go. Secondly, I just heard now you're off for another week?
Yeah. Yes, okay, I know. I'm having the whole 2-day work week.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, then, I just wanted to see exactly what time and day I should be ready for that beer this time.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, Greg, listen, you and I, we will get together. We will get together. Didn't I try you the other week on a Thursday and you stiffed me? Maybe I didn't.
No.
Okay.
No.
It must have been.
Back, you said you thought of me, and then you just sat there. You just sat there and did nothing all week.
Okay.
Wow. So I'm not even good. I'm not even good enough to get nothing. To be more than nothing. Wow.
Greg, listen. Sometimes, nothing is the best thing, right?
Yeah, but a whole week.
Okay, we will.
Yeah, okay.
We will get together.
I guess you do work hard. That yes, a whole week off here. Want to borrow a towel to wipe that sweat?
Duly noted. All right, Greg.
Watching for the invite.
Thank you. Enjoy your day. Busted. It's true. I meant to. Did I just forget to arrange a meeting with Farwell's Force member number 38, Greg? I think I did. The road to hell, Greg, is paved with good intentions, and ding dang it, my intentions were the best. But we'll remedy that in the days ahead. Immediately ahead, a commercial timeout, and then our final minutes of Talkback for this Wednesday afternoon before I take off and disappear until August the 18th. So your last chance to make fun of me is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. Talkback continues 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Together today before we turn things over to Rob Snow. And now you know, so let's get right back to our calls here on Talkback. Tim, good afternoon.
How are you, Mike?
I'm doing just fine, thank you, sir. I understand you are a first-time caller.
Yeah, first-time caller.
I love it.
I've been listening to you ever since you started.
Oh, you poor fella. How have you put up with me for that long?
Oh, I don't know. Some days I get really peeved.
I'm sorry about that.
Anyway,
yes.
I just called. I hear you're going on vacation. Wanted to wish you a happy and safe vacation.
Thank you. I don't intend on doing... I might be, like Sonia said, I'm going to stay in the house and out of trouble.
Oh, you're not going to the cottage?
I wish I had a cottage to go to, Tim.
I thought you went to Fergus, or not Fergus,
Port Elgin.
Yeah.
That's where our family always cottaged, but the family sold that cottage many years ago, so I haven't been back in quite some time.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I know, I am too. My beloved and I were just talking about it last night. We got to find a way to start getting back there on a regular basis.
You want to know where to go? Port Stanley. That's where me and my wife go.
Very good spot as well. That's where they've got the... what's the name of the ice cream shop?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong place.
I go to Mackey's there right on the beach for a burger.
And Port Stanley, that's where Gators is, right?
Yeah.
GT's? GT's.
Yeah,
that's the one.
That's in behind the Buccaneer.
There you go. See, I'm putting it all together.
Okay, well, have a good one there, bud.
All right, Tim. Thanks so much for listening to the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, then. One of the things I might try to do over the next many days, because I won't have to put as much thought into the show. I mentioned this at the beginning of the Talkback Hour, that the last two previous segments with Rob Deutschman on political R&D and with Blue Jay Hunter got me all fired up. Political R&D, because I really am very upset that for the sixth time in 3 years, we're appointing a new member to a council or school board. We should get by-elections, period. And I'll make all my arguments against your arguments that by-elections are too expensive and not enough people turn out for them, etc. We deserve by-elections, pure and simple. Why talking to Blue Jay Hunter got me upset is because before Ian and I started talking Blue Jays this morning at 11, he comes in every Wednesday at 11 for that, he asked how my sports weekend was that I just came back from. And as much as I enjoyed the visit to Montreal and the tennis tournament that we saw on Friday night, pretty darn good. The CFL game we saw on Saturday, meh. I just think the Montreal Alouettes had a bad day. I don't love the CFL generally, but I won't pick on the league too much. But then on Sunday, we came home through Ottawa and watched what I think is described. I think the game is soccer. That's what you call this thing. My goodness gracious. So I think what I'm going to do for the next little bit while I'm away is try to figure out what it is you see in this game of soccer. I know how popular it is, and I'm not trying to be unkind here, but wow. I just sat there on a beautiful day and watched people kick a ball back and forth across a field. Like virtually nothing happened. And I know I wasn't watching like Manchester United or some of these like soccer teams I hear so much about, but goodness gracious me. Does anything ever happen in a game of soccer? I couldn't find it. And if you're a soccer player, and I admire your athleticism and your talent and ability, I can't figure it out. I don't know why we do this game, but maybe I'll figure it out over the next bit. Colin Robertson will be here with you for the rest of this week. Brock Greenhalgh will be in here the week after. Be nice to the supply teacher. I'll come back on August the 18th and we'll pick up where we left off, okay? I'm Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.